Hello, creatives. It's me, Eddie Lane, and I'm here to talk about writing. Now that it's NanoWrimo, there is no prepping. It's time. It's Tober time. One of my favorite things to say is if you treat every mo like it's Rimo, then you don't need nano. So don't be intimidated by this month coming up. And if you are, then that's okay too. And I'm here to help you with how, well, at least letting you know how I like to basically write a book, how I get myself through that from chapter to chapter process, and also keep myself on track. This works if you don't have a Scrivener, if you don't have a Word program, and you just are a rough writer, or you just can't buy that equipment for yourself right just yet. Basically, all you need is a book. Now, I did do a video on this, but one of my favorite books to get is just from the dollar store. It's a hardcover. It's got one of these little flappies so that I can put a pen into it. And it's got lines on it, just standard lines. Just put my name and phone number right up here. And then I usually go ahead and give it a title. This is where you can start sketching out ideas for your title. If there is a certain look that you want to do for it, you can begin to gather your ideas here, titles, cover pages, whatnot. Again, this book is basically to signify the first physical zero draft, or rough draft, the beginning, the first draft, when you don't even know the story. I usually put a little table of contents here, but you don't have to. And then one of my first pages that I like to make has to do with my cast. So you open up your page, you put your name in, you put your title, then on the next page you can do whatever you want. You can do your cast list here. What I like to give myself enough room for is to put in who's the good guys, who's the bad guys grouping, extra characters and people that you want to be a little bit misleading or red herrings. Just keep like a log of those sorts of people. One thing to keep in mind is don't get trapped by names yet. Just use the names that you're kind of placeholding for your person. That's fine. I sometimes when this gets going and I'm really into it, about halfway through the story, I will take those names and make a list of like Hollywood actors or people that are popular to play those characters, just to embody that person, perhaps to other people if they were to ask. I think it's good to have that. Now I am a Scrivener user, so I do have places for character study and setting study and research notes and everything in there. But I do like to have a hard copy with me just in case, especially when I'm in those first creator stages of molding my story and I don't quite know what it is. Then I can actually have a physical copy with me at all times. Now with this one, I did go a little bit into a bit of a questionnaire. I think I make them different every time, depending on the story itself. So if it's a comedy, I want to write down the quirks and stuff like that. Or if it's a mystery, I want to write down the points that may make this person seem more suspicious. And with this one, I wrote down motive, dark secrets, appearances, answers that she craved. What is her arc going to be? What is missing inside of her, and who exactly is she? I started with my main character, and then I started moving into more relevant characters as I went along. It got a little bit more sparse as I went, so I started to just kind of collect little bits and pieces here about her friends and her enemies and her possible love interest. I got a little bit crammed up here. I think I had written something in and I kind of stuck myself into this place, but you can give yourself a lot more space to just kind of work out the main points of the plot. One of my favorite things to do is to go from the midpoint back up to the beginning and then again from the midpoint to the end, just to really make that midpoint so that your readers go, what happened? I was reading something else up until now. And then just kind of collected all those sorts of things. I did write down the magic because there is a bit of a loose magic in this one. There won't be anything really explained, but it does show up a little bit. And then, and then I also wrote down relevant things about dissociative identity disorder. Also, I'm starting to collect some stuff about cults. But as you can see, I kind of started to work on my Scrivener at that point. I think the story had really hit, and then I was like, oh, I got good stuff. So I took a night where I sat down with my book, and I just kind of transposed all my notes that I had up until that point in. At that point, I did start the thing I am most excited about of all for you, and that is what I call the chapter log. Is so great, and this was a thing that I pride myself on saying I kind of figured out for myself. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who are doing this, but it was the one method that I came up with consistently in every new draft that I started making, and I realized it's just my thing. It's my thing. Now, this is what it looks like when it is done. When I've finished writing that chapter and putting it into Scrivener. And this, minus all these life notes, this is what it looks like before I start on the chapter itself. So I do parcel the chapter off into relevant scenes, usually 3 or 4. And I do make myself some sort of a log up here that I get to cross out when I write every one of those scenes. And it's a progress tracker for me. It's very visual and interactive, and it gives me such pride to fill that in. I used a little magnifying glass for this. I just drew it really bad. Like, here's another one. It's just, but it's only for me, so it doesn't matter. So, I used something very visual. For another story, I was using a pyramid because the pyramids do come into play. So you can make it all personal to your draft. And then you fill it all in when you're finished that chapter. Then you move on to the next one. And you write down your scenes. And this may seem like, why would I do this if I'm doing this all on Scrivener? That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I do it even though I'm not really carrying this around with me all day, every day. I still do it. It still gives me a sense of, oh, yeah, that's what I want. And that's where I want this chapter to go. And then I can bring it into the bath with me and work on some of the, oh, that scared me. And work on some of the stuff in the bath. But if you use the bus, if you have lots of wait times in your life where you just have nothing to do, this is a great thing to tuck into your purse or have with you with your little pen strewn in, and you can just open it up and look and see, hey, where am I supposed to be in this chapter? Oh, scene 2 of chapter 6. And then you can flip over, but just after the log is over, then I would usually start writing right there. I'd do a title page that just says something like rough prose or snippets of dialogue or something like that. And then if you only have your book with you and your pen, you just start writing down here. Easy as that. What I will often do is I'll go ahead and flip to the back if I'm getting outrageous ideas that want to go into a million different places. So I'll go to the back and I'll be like, is this a thing? And if you wait a little while, you can come back to it and decide, is that a thing or is it just not? And more often than not, it's not. But I do keep a log of that. And I also keep a log of all the other like random little thoughts I have while I'm drafting, because other stories will try to cut in, that's for sure. So anyway, that's how I wrap, or that's how I get started, and I keep myself on track when I'm writing a story. I usually have at least one per story of these books, sometimes more. Um, and I keep that with me, and I just keep that with me. Just the tip. Ooh. Now, I think it was Ray Bradbury who said, you have to stay drunk on your story. Stay drunk on it, always. I am a total binger of Netflix. I binge documentaries and crime stuff far too much. Far too much. I mean, really, you just have to say one name and I'll be like, oh, that guy from that crime in that state. I've watched everything there is on that guy. And I got to stop myself, because what will happen sometimes is whatever you decide to bring into your life is going to interject itself into your story one way or another. So if you can stay drunk on your story alone, or your genre of story even, you can be listening to an audiobook that has a lot to do with your genre or reminds you of your story or is a direct inspiration for you. You can, the best thing, and I just heard Brandon Sanderson say this not too long ago, is to engage your brain while your body is doing a mundane task, such as washing the dishes or doing laundry or even just going for a walk or something. If your brain is running through what you're going to write next, sitting down and getting that written is going to feel so much more like a flow, like you're just a conduit. And then the words are coming out. And that's where you'll be like, oh, I see what people are talking about. I am this artist in the world and the source is coming through me. Because usually that's not what it's like. You're just staring at something, hoping the words come to you somehow. And they do if you wait long enough. But I'm telling you, having that store up of words in your head where you can't necessarily get the words down is going to be is going to make it so easier. It's going to make it so much easier when you go to write it. Thank you for watching me, and I hope that you will come back for my next video, which is going to be more about focusing. Focusing on what you're going to write. Like, just come back. Bye. Was vielleicht Flitzteformer. No, the chapter. Keep all my character stuff. No! Oh. I'll pretend I'm reading because people keep driving by. No, I'm not going to use the chapter log. Picture for the thumbnail here.